This campaign developed over a period of years. Colleen Campbell was a major inspirational force for it, and she was involved discussing it with me and others, very early on, long before 2008. And as we discussed, we got together and talked to various victims' rights groups and law enforcement groups, and in particular district attorneys across the state about this concept. And when it was written in 2008, it was generally, a statewide campaign, networking with the various victims groups and prosecutors. And over the years before Marsy's law, many victims were kept out of court, would not be allowed to be in court during the trial, during other proceedings. The defense would make a motion to keep them out of court because it might be prejudicial this way or that way, and it was, I wouldn't say it was routine, but it was often granted, and the victims would have to sit out in the hallway or just go home.
Sadly, today, the accused has 23 rights in our great American document, the U.S. Constitution. However, unbelievably, victims have not a single right in that great document. And in memory of all victims and our murdered loved ones, I don't plan to sit around and have someone hold my hand. I want to help fight those evil bastards and keep them behind bars, and hopefully save others, and know that you will all join us to do that.
Colleen Campbell, for example, suffered that indignity on more than one occasion where she was in court. It was routine. After her son was murdered, it was routine for the defense attorneys to move to have her excluded from the court, and it was granted, not on every occasion, but on some occasions. And so there were a number of court proceedings that she was not even allowed to hear, and we just had to rely on the attorneys, particularly on the prosecution, to later let her know what happened. So the impact on her life has just been huge. But she's spent years fighting in court, working through with the courts to have her voice heard, and to have law enforcement understand her point of view, and to have the courts understand her point of view. Some people go into a shell and hide out when things like that happen, but she took a different view. She became an activist. She became a leader of victims' rights, and she's been a leader who has developed like a network of victims' rights groups, and people certainly throughout this state, and I know in other states as well, including Washington D.C., look to her for what should be happening in court.
Trying to cope with the tragedy, I say work hard and everything, but the truth of it is it really takes a toll on people. That's something that is a given. It takes a large toll on you physically, and is what you try to do is mentally with your family, keep strong and keep the love going.
So let me tell you about the case of Danny Oates. Danny Oates was a young middle school student, 13, 14 years old, and he was riding his bike home along with a friend of his from school one day, and he got hit by a truck. And the truck was driven by a guy named Jeffrey Woods, and he was under the influence of various things, different prescription drugs and alcohol, and we filed charges against him. And during the process, before any trial or anything, the defense attorney wanted to get a deal, and he was employing the kind of a normal method where you try to get a hold of a judge, you try to get the judge in chambers and get the judge to make a pretrial offer. And so our office opposed that because of Marsy's law. We were able to tell the judge that hey, we would prefer that you don't make any offer in the case until you hear from the victims and see what the impact of this crime and that sort of thing. And secondly, Marsy's law, I think, requires it. And so the judge did that. He allowed for a hearing of the victims, and quite a number of people testified. The greatest thing about Marsy's law is that it gives the victims constitutional rights that are enforceable in court, that are enforceable on appeal, a right to counsel, and a whole panoply of rights. So they are empowered to have a presence in court and to actually be something along the lines of a party in court.